The growl was a physical thing, a sonorous vibration that climbed the stone steps and clawed at their bones. It was the sound of grinding gears and predatory intent, a noise utterly alien to the bestiary of Illyria. It was not the roar of a manticore nor the guttural challenge of an ogre. It was the sound of a thing made, not born, awakening from a sleep of ages.
By the sage's beards, Elara breathed, the academic awe in her voice now sharpened by a fine edge of fear. What was that?
Trouble, Kalen answered, his voice a low growl of its own.
He didn't lower the strange metal crossbow. The crimson light from its tip painted the armory in a hellish glow, casting their shadows long and distorted against the racks of silent, waiting weapons. His knuckles were white where he gripped the stock. The weapon felt alive, thrumming with a contained power that resonated deep in his chest. It was terrifying, and yet, it was the only thing in this accursed place that felt potent enough to answer the threat coiling in the darkness.
Keep your light low, he commanded, backing away from the doorway. And have a spell ready. Something with force.
I am a sorceress, Kalen, not a village hedge witch. I always have a spell ready, she retorted, though her voice lacked its usual haughty confidence.
In her other hand, she clutched a metallic, spoon-shaped artifact, its purpose still a frustrating enigma. The sound came again, closer this time. A rhythmic click-scrape accompanied the low hum, the sound of multiple, heavy limbs finding purchase on the ancient stone. It was methodical. Hunting. From the black rectangle of the doorway, a form emerged. It was a nightmare wrought in dark, chitinous metal. As tall as a pony but built with the predatory crouch of a wolf spider, it moved on 6 jointed legs that ended in wicked, blade-like points. They scraped against the floor with unnerving precision. Its body was a segmented carapace of the same matte gray material as the walls, scuffed and scarred by millennia of disuse. It had no head, no eyes that they could see. Instead, the front of its torso was dominated by a single, large, unblinking lens of polished black glass that seemed to drink the torchlight. Below the lens, a pair of articulated arms, each ending in a pincer-like claw, twitched with latent energy.
A golem? Kalen muttered, his mind struggling to categorize the horror. But it moved with a fluidity no magically animated construct possessed. It was too fast, too silent.
No golem of earthen make, Elara whispered, her scholarly mind racing. This is an automaton. A clockwork horror. But what powers it? There is no enchantment I can sense, no soul gem binding it.
The automaton's black lens swiveled, locking onto Kalen. A faint red light flickered deep within it, a malevolent echo of the weapon he held. It had identified the energy signature. It had identified the threat. With a shriek of tortured metal, it charged. Kalen's instincts took over. He sidestepped, raising his family's broadsword a familiar, comforting weight. He brought the rusted steel down in a powerful, two-handed arc aimed at one of the automaton's legs. The clang was deafening. The impact sent a shockwave of pain up Kalen's arms that rattled his teeth. The broadsword, a weapon that had cleaved goblin skulls and Orcus shields, bounced off the automaton's leg as if it were solid granite. A long, ugly scratch was the only proof of his effort. The automaton didn't even slow.
My turn, Elara snapped. Her hand flashed forward, a word of power on her lips. Asterisk Ignis Sagita, asterisk.
A bolt of pure, white-hot flame, the size of a man's fist, erupted from her palm and slammed into the automaton's carapace. But when the flames dissipated, the automaton stood unscorched. The metal plating where the firebolt had struck was blackened and bubbled, the ancient paint scorched away, but the integrity of the armor was unbreached. The black lens swiveled towards Elara, designating a new, more immediate threat. One of its pincer arms snapped forward with impossible speed. Kalen shouted a warning, but it was too late. The claw seized a rack of the strange crossbows, ripping it from the wall and flinging it through the air towards the mage. Elara cried out, throwing up a hastily woven shield of pure force. The rack of heavy metal weapons crashed against it with the force of a battering ram. The magical shield flared, held for a heartbeat, and then shattered, sending Elara stumbling back against the far wall. The metal rack clattered to the floor just feet from her, and her staff skittered out of her grasp. The automaton advanced on her, its bladed feet clicking a death knell on the stone.
No! Kalen roared. All hesitation vanished, replaced by cold, desperate necessity. He raised the alien crossbow, his eye aligning with a simple notch at the end of the weapon. He didn't aim for a leg this time. He aimed for the single, black, unblinking lens.
His thumb found the stud and pressed. The crimson beam erupted again, silent and absolute. It lanced through the gloom and struck the automaton's lens dead center. There was no explosion. For a terrifying second, Kalen thought it had failed. Then, a spiderweb of cracks spread across the black glass. A high-pitched whine began to emanate from within the creature's chassis, climbing in frequency until it was a physical pain in their ears. Viscous, coolant-like fluid, thick and black as pitch, began to leak from the shattered lens. The automaton shuddered violently. Its limbs locked, its movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. It took one more stumbling step, then another, before its internal power failed entirely. With a final, grinding groan of protesting metal, the Iron Guardian collapsed, its full weight crashing to the floor with a boom that shook the small chamber. Silence descended, heavy and profound, broken only by the frantic pounding of Kalen's own heart and the hiss of smoking fluid pooling on the stone. He stood frozen for a long moment, the strange weapon still aimed at the fallen construct. The red glow at its tip slowly faded, and the low hum died away, leaving only the mundane flicker of his torch.
Elara? Are you hurt? He finally managed, his voice hoarse.
My dignity is bruised, and my robes are singed, she replied, her voice shaky but laced with its familiar indignation. She pushed herself up, retrieving her staff and brushing dust from her sleeve with a grimace. Her eyes, however, were wide with a mixture of terror and utter fascination as she stared at the vanquished automaton. What in the name of the forgotten gods was that thing?
Kalen lowered the weapon, its weight suddenly immense. The Guardian. I think we woke it when I fired this thing. He looked from the weapon in his hands to the molten scar on the wall, then back to the inert metal carcass. This was power beyond any reckoning. A single, silent touch had done what a warrior's arm and a sorceress's wrath could not. Elara approached the fallen construct cautiously, her earlier fear now fully supplanted by her scholarly curiosity. She nudged one of its bladed legs with the butt of her staff. It was solid, unmoving.
Incredible, she murmured, her gaze tracing the complex joinery of its limbs. There are no runes of animation. The power source must be internal. She noticed the black fluid leaking from its shattered eye. She knelt, forgetting her aversion to dirt for once, and dipped a finger in the viscous liquid. She brought it to her nose and sniffed. It's not alchemical. It has a strange, sharp smell. Like nothing I've ever encountered.
While she examined the exterior, Kalen's pragmatism drove him to look for a weakness, a source. He used the tip of his broadsword to pry at one of the scorched carapace plates. The metal groaned and bent, and with a final heave, he tore it free, revealing the machine's innards. It was a sight that defied all logic. There were no gears, no pistons. Instead, a dense web of what looked like silver and copper veins snaked through the chassis, connecting to small, intricately etched metal plates covered in more of the alien runes. At the very center, nestled in a cradle of black metal, was a crystal. It was fist-sized and pulsing with a faint, dying blue light, the lifeblood of the machine slowly bleeding away.
Elara, look at this, he said, his voice low.
She moved to his side, her eyes widening at the sight of the machine's guts. Silver veins, rune-etched plates, and a crystal heart, she breathed. It's a mockery of life, created with metal and light instead of flesh and blood. The ancients, what kind of magic did they wield?
As she spoke, her gaze fell to the metal spoon she still held. An idea, born of desperate curiosity, took root. The artifact was designed to channel something. The crystal heart of the automaton was leaking energy. Perhaps.
Stand back, she instructed. Holding the artifact like a divining rod, she pointed its crystal tip towards the dying glow of the automaton's power source.
The effect was instantaneous. The crystal on Alara's artifact flared to life, glowing with the same soft blue as the automaton's heart. A ghostly, three-dimensional image flickered into existence in the air just above the wreckage. It was a perfect, shimmering blue outline of the automaton as it had been in life, with lines of light showing the flow of energy from the crystal heart to its limbs and weapons. More of the alien symbols hovered in the air beside it, a language of light she couldn't comprehend but understood as annotation.
A diagnostic tool, she whispered in utter awe. This isn't a wand, it's a scryer's glass of impossible complexity. It reads the inner workings of their creations. Her mind reeled with the implications.
Kalen just stared. Magic, he understood. This was something else. A craft so advanced it felt like a different kind of reality.
His eyes fell upon the sealed chest they had left in the armory. It had the same make, the same seamless design, and a similar unlit panel. Alara, he said, the spark of an idea in his eyes. If that tool can read the heart of a golem, can it read the lock of a chest?
Alara's face lit up. With the immediate danger gone, the thrill of discovery returned tenfold. She turned to the heavy metal chest and pointed her new scryer at the small, dark panel. The blue light washed over it, and this time, no ghostly image appeared. Instead, a sequence of symbols lit up on the panel itself, one after another, in a specific order: a square, a circle bisected by a line, and a triangle.
It's not just a scryer, she said, her voice trembling with excitement. It's a key. It reveals the combination.
Without hesitation, she pressed the shapes in the order the tool had revealed. A soft chime echoed in the room, and with another pneumatic hiss, the lid of the chest unlocked. Kalen lifted the heavy lid. Inside, resting on beds of strange, fibrous padding, was not gold or jewels. On one side lay a half-dozen metallic cylinders, each filled with a clear, bubbling liquid and tipped with a vicious-looking needle. On the other side was a perfect cube of polished black stone. It was warm to the touch and hummed with the same contained energy as the weapon Kalen held. A power source.
Healing drafts of a strange design, Kalen noted, picking one of the cylinders up. And a magic user's power stone?
Perhaps, Alara said, her gaze fixed on the humming cube.
They had survived. They had new, incomprehensible weapons and tools. But Kalen knew they couldn't stay here. The automaton was just a guardian. Whatever it was guarding lay deeper in. Armed with a weapon of light and a tool that could see the unseen, he felt a sliver of hope.
We rest for a moment, then we press on, Kalen declared, his resolve hardening. Whatever lies deeper in this place, it's the source of all this. It's the answer to what happened to Harmondale.
Alara nodded, her mind already cataloging the impossible discoveries. As she packed the strange cylinders and the glowing cube into her satchel, Kalen strode out of the armory, the crimson-tipped crossbow held at a low ready. He peered down the passage from which the automaton had come, into a darkness that seemed even more profound than before. They had passed the first test. They had claimed the relics of the antechamber. But the true heart of the ruin, the secrets of the ancients, still lay ahead, waiting in the silent, metallic dark. And they had no idea if the next guardian would be so easily felled.